Welcome back to the 289th episode of the Daily Flip podcast. I'm your host, Alex, and today we're going to be flipping through some of the top stories, including the RNC's shift into MAGA, aka the full-on shift, especially with the nomination of J.D. Vance, or at least the decision by Donald Trump to put him on the ticket. We'll have two stories talking about that, and we'll also talk about the security breakdowns around the Secret Service, obviously. Both of those stories are really at the center within the last day. So, what we want to start with is, of course, our daily debate, and that is going to be, is this a smart move for Donald Trump, for the RNC? Is putting J.D. Vance on the ticket, trying to really shore up the working class voter, is that the way to go? And after you comment that, we'll jump into the stories. Also, forgot to mention at the first part, we will end today with our daily delight, a story meant to leave you feeling positive and ready to take on the day. But that's enough with all that. Let's jump in to our first story, which comes from KTHRH, iHeart.com. Headline reads, RNC's embrace of Trump platform signals shift in GOP. So when we initially looked at the talking points, the 20 talking points that the RNC put out for their platform, and obviously the platform is a longer document than just that section, and they didn't even put one out in 2020, so this was, at least for some Republicans who have been with the party for a long time, like, okay, thank you, we're putting something out. And then they went through and read, and they're like, okay, this sounds like an angry tweet from Donald Trump. The all caps were there. We have really Trumpy language, which is we need to make our America wealthy again. We need to lower inflation. We need to make it affordable, make America affordable again. Which I thought was, I'm surprised nobody latched onto that. Instead of MAGA, it's Ma, which is still one of the funniest things to come out of that RNC platform, in my opinion. And I said at that point, with Laura Trump, with Chris Acevedo, with all of these different people in the RNC apparatus now, it really has fallen in behind Donald Trump. And then with the choice of J.D. Vance as a vice presidential candidate, this is Donald Trump looking to the future. I made a quick snap reaction yesterday or technically, I made it on Monday night for Tuesday. I'm recording that today, so it actually just came out a little bit ago, but this episode is going to come out Wednesday. So, from your point of view, or anywhere in the future, it came out before this. And I made a little snap reaction about what the J.D. Vance choice says, also how we actually get populism. But the reason that the topic was how we get populism, how we got to the point where Donald Trump is putting on a J.D. Vance, is because it is a cementing of the populist moment and also a codifying of how a populist movement turns into a populist party and how that person, the leader at the time, is able to cement the future of their legacy while also putting in an effective actor who can also really advocate for those populist policies. That's a lot of what you're going to hear from the conservative media, who doesn't want to come out and say that they don't, or at least the old school conservative media. The new school conservative media loves it. The old school conservative media, the few talking heads who believe in a little bit more of the old-timey free market kind of stuff, they're going to all be coming out and saying, well, he's wicked smart. He really sticks close to Donald Trump. He absolutely loves the man. He even said back in the day that he was not for him, and Trump converted him. Trump brought him in underneath the banner, and he really proved to J.D. Vance, a true populist, that the MAGA agenda was the way to go forward. And I think that obviously there doesn't want to be too much of a split. I think behind the scenes, there are going to be some people who are genuinely saying, why? Why? This is the pick, and this has been the saying of the people in independent media, in normal mainstream media, in the neo-mainstream new age media. There are a few of those companies out there, and this was the pick for someone who is very confident that they are going to win. You're going to hear that talking point everywhere. And you know what I think they're actually saying, what I think that is code language for, is why? Why? Why are you taking the risk? Why are you taking the chance? Go with a normal conservative. Go with an old school conservative. Go with a rhino. Literally go with a rhino. Even though that will make some people angry, the base ain't leaving you anytime soon. You need to come together. You need to unify the old wing of the party. Now, I'm not saying you bring in a Nikki Haley or anything, but a Tim Scott or Marco Rubio, those are some, or Doug Burgum, those were some of the names that were being thrown around. Those would all satisfy that need to really come back to the free market, less protectionist policy, the pro-corporate policy of the old RNC. The Rupert Murdochs would be very, very happy with all of those people. And they're looking at this and saying, okay, one, he truly believes that he is on the path to winning. Two, because he's so certain, or at least he is so confident that he's going to win, he is trying to make sure MAGA goes beyond him. And there are two ways to take that. There's the one way, which is he is so genuinely concerned about the country, and he wants to make sure, and he believes that his agenda is the right way to go about helping the country and helping the average person who has been trodden on for so long and is not spoken to in the main political discourse, the swamp, that he really wants to drain the swamp so much that he's trying to get someone who is an effective agent on his side and will give him advice on how to actively shake up everything in Washington, and it is all out of the goodness of your heart. That's the good faith argument. The cynical argument is that he is so narcissistic and he believes so much in his own movement that he wants to make sure that there's somebody who can effectively be a next step in the Trump movement, and therefore his legacy will go beyond just his own 8 to 12 years in the public spotlight as a political figure and all the time that he was technically he ran in 2000 as well for the Reform Party, but also as a media figure with The Apprentice, a businessman for all of his times where he was in and out of having a very successful business and then built up his real estate empire and his different golf courses and his brand and everything like that, which have been very, very successful. So my point being that those are probably the two sides that you're going to get. I would say those are the two most likely arguments, and they also fall into the cynical and the good faith argument. It could also be, there's other speculation that, Trump Jr. has the ear of his father, of course, and he really likes J.D. Vance. They get along, and if your son, who really cares about loyalty, he speaks about it a lot, sees this person as a good soldier, a good person to go out there and fight those battles and really advocate for your policy, and he's going to, I don't want to say die by you, but he's at least going to stand up and fight till the very end for you. We know that Trump loves loyalty. We know that Trump loves loyalty. That is a lot of what his grievances against people are. And that is what he's able to forgive people for. He's said in the past, hey, well, they fought me in the primary, but they pulled in like Tim Scott. I liked him less when he was a candidate against me. I think he does a better job advocating for me than himself. And these sort of things, when you fall in line and you're loyal to Donald Trump, he loves it and he respects it. And whether or not you agree that it's a good thing, a bad thing, that you don't want everybody loyal to Donald Trump, that there has to be some dissident voices, there have to be some people pushing back, that could at least be a logical argument as to why a J.D. Vance would also be someone he considers on top of the other ones that I mentioned. There are some other weirder theories out there. I'm not really going to delve into them there. But let's jump into actually some of the wording from this article. It's pretty short. It doesn't provide the most. I wanted to use it more as a jumping off point to talk about what I wanted to talk about when it came to the pick and the cementing of the populist moment within the Republican Party. Quote, the horrific assassination attempt aside, the RNC's embrace of Donald Trump's platform signals a major shift in the GOP. As writer Ben Weldon notes in Just the News, it's completely different from 8 years ago. The main thing to look at with the Republican Party's platform is that a lot of things that Trump brought to the table in 2016 that really wrangled conservatives and traditional establishment feathers have actually made it into the platform now, Weldon said. Basically, that means MAGA and less rhinos. So he's 100% right. And I talked about this when the RNC platform came out, the MAGAification of it. And I talked about it since then as well. The fact that Social Security and Medicare, within the party platform, they say that they will protect it, that they will not touch it. This has been a critical pillar of Republican politics for a very, very long time. The arguments always used to be, I know it's going to be rough, and they never actually did anything about it, so fair enough. But at least they paid lip service to the fact that, hey, we actually have to reform some things. Maybe we have to increase the retirement age. Maybe we have to restructure some of the benefits, so on and so forth. They at least paid lip service to it. They obviously didn't want to do anything about it because that's the third rail of politics. You don't want to say that you're taking something away, even if you structure it in a way where everybody below 30, somehow they make it work, and everybody below 30 is still going to get their benefits, and only the people that have been paying in for less than 10 or 12 years, that shifts for them in the future. They have enough time to plan for it. Even if you say something like that, the idea, it will be used against you in political ads, which is they want to get rid of Social Security and Medicare. They're going to change the system, and people are going to, take that as, oh, whoa, don't take my benefits, even if the plan is saying for the most everyday person that's not actually going to go anywhere. And then obviously the abortion issue, they've completely shifted the messaging on that. And I broke down yesterday how this is a reaction to some of the overly aggressive political antics, geopolitical antics that the U.S. played when we felt like a wounded animal, so to speak, after 9/11, and we lashed out like a wounded animal, and we actually looked weak on the world stage, even though we were trying to purvey strength, on top of some of the issues during the financial crisis and the fact that banks got bailed out and that the people who were responsible for it ended up getting bonuses. And whether or not you 100% agree with how that goes down, because some people did, lose their jobs or at least have to get transferred out, but not many of them, and not the most senior of them. The populist language around both of those sort of things, the anti-war and the anti-elite, the anti-big corporation, the anti-big government, they culminate and they really show themselves in a person like J.D. Vance. I would say while Trump is most definitely a great purveyor, he is still not truly descended from the upper echelons of American culture. And what I mean by that is he obviously talks to the common man. He goes down, he cares about the common man. At least he likes to portray that. And he puts out lots of amazing videos and images of him doing that. I mean, when his trips to McDonald's, that is literally the point of those, to show that he's interacting with the everyday person. But I think that he still is from those New York circles. So to some degree, there's a little bit of dissonance between the message and the messenger. J.D. Vance is that. He grew up in a poorer part of the country, in the Rust Belt. He worked his way up. He ended up going to Yale. He ended up having a great, as Donald Trump would say, successful career in technology, in business. And he wrote a really famous book, which, hey, honestly, I never thought I should read Hillbilly Elegy before. I thought, oh yeah, it sounds good. I didn't really want to watch the movie. I thought it was a very interesting tale, and getting a synopsis of it was enough for me. But I bet there are plenty of Americans just like me. They're like, maybe I should read this and get a better insight into the person that's going to be the vice president and more than likely running for president after Donald Trump is gone, and very well could be, if they win, he is the future of the MAGA party. I'm sorry if you think a Glenn Youngkin's going to come in, or if you think a DeSantis is going to come in. Christie's already had his time. Maybe a Doug Burgum could make an argument, riding the coattails. Maybe a Tim Scott could try again. But all of those people, the latter half, I think, are less likely just because they're not really presidential, and I think people have already said that. The first two, who could actually have good arguments being governors and being executives and having effective policy put out, their moment has probably passed. It's going to be hard to stay relevant after Northam. Did I just say Northam again? Youngkin. Goodness gracious. Youngkin has to get out of office after this coming year, and DeSantis, he'll also have to get out of office after this coming year. It's hard to see how he stays relevant because he's already done the whole go to Washington, be a representative for his state, come back, be a governor. So I don't see another still move that is an upward trajectory that keeps him in line for the presidency, unless maybe a cabinet position, but I don't think that Trump's going to do that. I also don't see what DeSantis is really maybe something to do with the judicial point. I don't know. I don't really see a place for him in the cabinet, if I'm being honest. So I don't see an upward move into the echelons of power that will keep him relevant enough to run again after Donald Trump is gone. So yes, J.D. Vance is the future of the party. He is being solidified here, and it shows the pivot and the switch. And what I was trying to get at before I talked about the RNC is that you also sort of saw the same thing happening in the Democratic Party. And the question will be, will it return? If they are able to properly oust Joe Biden, if they are able to properly shift the moment and meet the moment and have a more populist response, have a Bernie Sanders-like character really step up and take the ticket. And I'm not saying that he would, because he says that he's behind Biden, but if Biden willingly stepped down rather than them ousting him, I think you could see a Sanders possibly step up just because he believes that his message is the best for America. I feel like he would be very hesitant just because he wants to still have that influence in the White House that he has now, and that's why he fell behind Biden after they basically forced him to. And you don't want to see him get on the bad side of Kamala Harris, who would be the presumed nominee, but she is also a little bit more progressive in nature. Does that make her more populist? Not really, because she is of the California establishment and really the inner workings of the political system there. But you could maybe see AOC, I believe, in 2 years. So even if it's not after this election, it's the election after that. You could see people like an AOC who has moderated a little bit, who's kind of fallen in line with the establishment, mainly because of the workings of Nancy Pelosi behind the scenes to really hem in the squad. But you could see her and her group, and even more populists like them, have a rise, especially if Donald Trump and J.D. Vance win. Because guess what? The messaging will be that the MAGA party has changed. And let's be clear, the language will always be that they're a threat to democracy or that they're going too far. That will always be the language from the left-wing media. And the right-wing media is always going to say, well, the Democrats are going too far too. Sorry, these media apparati, they all have their biases, which having a bias is one thing. Okay, that's different than having their horses fully behind the carts of any given side and having a harder time seeing through the flaws. Then again, I'm not implying that I'm any better. I have my sources that I listen to across the political aisle. That doesn't mean I'm still not. I mean, my sources are pretty much jaded and cynical for the most part. There's very few pure establishment types in there. So maybe that makes me totally jaded and not able to see the legitimate arguments and the beauty of some of the people who are on the establishment side doing great things. Maybe that is where my bias comes in. And I say that there are plenty of other biases that I know I have. But my point being that they already have their carts hitched here. All of the media sources, all of the people purveying information, they know where they want to go with it. Everybody's going to keep saying, oh, the bad side, bad side, bad side. And if JD and Trump get to the office of president and vice president and president respectively again, and it is solidified the populist movement and the legacy of it within the RNC. Obviously, things can always change. You never know what's going to happen. The Tea Party looked like it was going to be a huge movement, and then it died out and then kind of converted into the Trump movement. But my point being that there could be an argument from some of the progressive populists on the left-hand side of the aisle saying, look, they went more populist. They tapped into we need to focus and help the American people, if not in rhetoric alone, but also in policy, and they won. So we need to do the exact same thing. Now, on the left-hand side, that's going to have a very different look sometimes than on the right-hand side. And honestly, left, right, and then populism and institutionalism, it's like one of those compasses. It's not necessarily directly a line from left to right. There is a little bit of, you could have redistribution, but in different ways that are populist. And, the right would do it in a different way than the left would do it in a different way. So obviously, there's a little bit of culmination there. But the left would probably push it more to the left, just as the right, in going going populist has also shifted more to the left, and they've just kind of landed at the center, or at least the center nowadays, going back to 2012, 2008 maybe, but they are definitely closer to liberals, and looking at the 1960s, 1970s. And that's why some traditional Republicans look at the populist movement, look at JD Vance as a pick, and they're like, what? Why are we doing this? No, he's a great vice presidential pick to court the populists, but not when we already have populists at the top of the ticket. So it's a very interesting consolidation of what's going on within the RNC, this movement that's been culminating for a long time now, over the last 8 years or so. And we'll see how it all ends up after the next 4, because if Donald Trump out, if they don't win, it's a rejection by the American people of the populist movement for the most part, and it will be true institutionalism. And if they win, it will be an embrace of the populism to some degree. Obviously, nobody for winning an election purely has a popular mandate. We don't have a monarch anymore. But there's definitely something there where there was at least enough of the population willing to give it a try, and that is the beauty of our elections, and that's the beauty of having another election. We are able to try things out. That's also why we have a federalist system, where we try things out in different states. That's why we have elections there, and we are constantly experimenting, because, to be honest, to have a perfect government over an imperfect people is impossible. So we're always going to keep trying and trying and trying. Some people just want to keep things closer to how they were and how they worked in the past, and not keep on moving forward. And some people want to keep on moving forward. And the populists are probably more on the edge of pushing things forward, and that's why I probably it concerns some traditional conservatives. So let's also jump to another article that highlights the JD Vance situation, and this comes from HuffPo, and the headline reads, "Authoritarianism expert responds to bone-chilling moment at the RNC." I didn't want to really give this too much time, because I'll be honest, I think whenever it says authoritarian expert, those kind of headlines make me hesitant, but that doesn't mean we can't at least bring up some of the talking points, at least hear what they have to say, kind of say where they're crazy and say where they might have a point. Quote, authoritarian expert Ruth Ben-Gayat, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, ma'am, on Monday addressed the moment of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee when Republicans chanted the word fight soon after GOP presidential nominee Donald Trump walked into the auditorium. The chant referenced the former president saying the word while pumping his fist immediately after... while pumping his first, it's supposed to be fist, quote, immediately after surviving an assassination attempt during a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania over the weekend. Radio host Dean Obendahl, sorry, again, mispronouncing it, shared a video of the scene from the convention on the Elon Musk-owned platform formerly named Twitter. Bone chilling to see the hashtag RNC convention, people chanting fight in unison with one arm punching in the air, he wrote, instantly conjures up rallies of 1930s Germany where there's no other way to put it, end quote. So, one, yes, you're asking here, you're basically putting this out in the world, and you're asking people to say, am I crazy for thinking that? Yes and no. You're definitely crazy for instantly jumping to the fact that it is a bad thing, that it's conjuring up those moments of 1930s Germany. And let's be clear. 1930s Germany, the rise of the party and the terrible, hateful rhetoric that came out of it, bad. I'm not denying that. But that doesn't also mean that there aren't great movements who have had charismatic leaders who have done great things where they give chants, they do hand signs. If you're talking about Nelson Mandela, talking about Gandhi, Martin Luther King, not so much. I don't remember too many different chants, but there have been lots of leaders who have had impassioned people that follow them, and especially after a moment like Saturday, where there is a specific visual symbol along with words that were said that are meant to evoke solidarity with that person and evoke that imagery. So yes, I understand. One, because this person already has their priors and they want to see it as a bad thing. They have their priors of why they're looking at it and they're saying it evokes this terrible memory because it's already at the front of mind when they think about Donald Trump and the people that support him. But it doesn't necessarily just have to be bad thing. It's just like when people are at a rally and say, no more taxes, no more, and they're pumping their hands up and down in the air. Or when you have Biden crowds saying, Biden or lock him up, lock him up. That's one of the recent examples from one of Joe Biden's rallies. So I'm sorry, but you're letting your priors come into this and really infect how you're seeing it. And that's understandable. You live in your own ecosystem, you live in your own bias, and let's be clear. If you are right, which I don't believe you are, but if you are right, and in 4 years I am totally wrong, I will be out there apologizing. I will be having conversations with you. I will say that I was 100% wrong. I will be saying that we should not have let XYZ fascist into the White House. I will be fighting for our rights as Americans. All of those things, I will be right there with you. I don't see it that way. I don't think a lot of people see it that way. And like I said, you're bringing your priors and your bias into the situation and seeing what you want to see. Because guess what? People pump their fist and they say slogans. They've said it all across history. And sure, that also means that it's been said in bad instances. It's been said in plenty of good instances. It's been said in plenty of morally descript instances where there's no moral association there. It's not like they're saying it because, yes, we want you to fight to destroy the blah, blah, blah. No, they're literally just saying fight, fight, fight because he survived an assassination attempt. Okay, maybe some other people mean something worse by it. Maybe some other people mean it just because they love Donald Trump in general. But I'll tell you now that it's not the terrible cause of a party trying to overthrow, absolutely destroy the institutions of the United States and suspend the government. That is not what they want to do. And trying to compare it to 1930s Germany, like I said, it brings in your priors. I understand why you feel that way. I understand why, if I could see how you could get there if that's what you truly believe already. But just relax, please. And also, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe when you say it evokes 1930s Germany, you're just saying it literally conjures up the images of 1930s Germany. You're not ascribing any more weight to it. But that example is so specific that I do not believe that this journalist who was there is trying to not say the thing that is coded in the words that he is saying. Then again, maybe I should give him some more good faith. If it ever reaches him, Mr. Dean Abedallah, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name again, please reach out and tell me I'm wrong. Love to hear it. So with that, let's jump into our final article. I said that I would talk about the Secret Service threat or the questions raised from the threat that was on Donald Trump's life on Saturday, and how they had not secured the area, how someone was allowed on the roof. I said I would go into all that, or at least I would talk about it. Obviously, there have been some more developments since this initial article came out, but some people are saying it's local law enforcement. Other people are questioning why it's the fact that they didn't have like an emergency line in order to call out that something was happening. So the individual who was a local officer couldn't go on the walkie and say, we have on the rooftop, it's not just somebody with a telescope. Somebody made that counter argument. It's not just somebody with a telescope. It actually is somebody who is aiming at the president. There are questions as to why that was not something that's part of normal protocols. So there are still lots of questions ruminating here, and I'm just going to go back to the initial piece put out by the Washington Examiner, which the headline reads, "Why wasn't the roof secured? Secret Service under fire for security lapse that gave failed assassin a clear shot." So, quote, "I knew immediately that something was wrong when I heard that whiz sound," and that's beginning of the article. That's the quote from Mr. Trump. And the reason they throw this at the front here is it's meant to typify that was allowed to get close enough that he was able to hear it. That should never be the case. And maybe you want to make an argument that, they had to make sure that they weren't going, like I said earlier, the counter argument, they had to make sure that it wasn't actually just a person observing, and that the person wasn't actually aiming at the president or shooting at the president. All I'll say for sure right now that I want to get at, because all those other stipulations are a little bit out of the way, but how the story seems to be unfolding now is the fact that because of people on the ground calling out the fact that there was somebody on that roof, a local police officer went up to check, and then the person, the shooter, who I'm not going to give his name because, like I said, will not give him any attention more than he wants. If you want to go look it up and you want to find it from everybody else, fair enough, but not for me. He pointed his gun at the officer. The officer had to retreat, and it seems to be that the fires rang out pretty close to the time after the officer was retreating, meaning that the shooter realized he was under pressure. So it could have been, besides the fact that Trump moved his head, it also could be that the person didn't have enough time to properly set up, because individuals on the ground were calling it out and saying, why is no one doing anything? He's on the roof. Please go check it out. What's going on? So there's a lot of culminating factors here. Praise the police officer who put his life on the line for going up and checking. Even though he retreated, it could have gone differently if he didn't. God bless the people pointing out. God bless the Secret Service taking the crucial shots afterwards. God bless Donald Trump for turning his head. All of these things. Unfortunately, we weren't able to stop it before any of it could happen, before any of the shots were let loose. And we still have people who were critically injured, and a past father who was protecting his family from the rain of fire. So there's a lot more that could be done. The site should have been secured. The questions about it only being 140 yards away, as to how that can not possibly be locked down, and how there could be any shots let out into the crowd that could possibly hurt people or hit the president. There are still lots to come. The Secret Service, how should I say? The woman at the top of the Secret Service, the head of the Secret Service, said that we'll be doing a full investigation. The buck stops with me, and people are questioning why she hasn't put in her resignation yet, because this should not be something that is allowed. And if this failure happened underneath anybody's administration, and I'm not saying like the political administration, I'm saying underneath her tenure, her basically, because it is her administration underneath her, if you want to put it that way, but we could say underneath her tenure, she probably should resign, or at least she should appoint someone else as a temporary director while she oversees the investigation, and then brings in third-party investigators as well to question whether or not her policies were put in place. And they need her to at least be looped in. Maybe she could do it as a private citizen, but they need to at least have her looped in to understand some of the policies, some of the decisions, and things like that. So we're going to see. It's going to continue to unfold. But some people are already saying that there's a little bit mum's the word. Like, people are being quiet about it. The investigation's kind of not going as loud as it could. And, there's political cover from the fact that people are still questioning whether Biden should be the president, whether he should step down, the RNC, the response, the pick of JD Vance. All of these different news stories allow for perfect cover to not necessarily come out and provide more information about all these big stories. So some people are saying that it's intentional, and I don't know about that. I don't want to fall down the conspiracy rabbit hole, because we've been there before in this country, and the deep skepticism and paranoia is probably not a good thing to have, but it's still a question, and we need to make sure we keep pressuring these agencies, Secret Service, FBI, local law enforcement, so that it doesn't fall through the cracks. So, with all that said, I want to jump to our Daily Delight. We've talked about some darker stuff. We're going to end today with a very, very cute video, in my opinion, and I'll describe it to you, and then I'm also going to provide the link to the article in the description below the like and subscribe button. So down there, it'll be there, and you'll get it's called the Daily Delight. It's a nice little short link, and it'll take you to wideopenspaces.com with the headline reading, "Squirrel Bites Wolf Pup in Adorably Violent Video." I know, adorably violent, but you'll understand. The wolf pup's like, "Oh, I got you. Yeah, I got my dinner for sure." And this squirrel is fighting, and it's able to give it a little nip. It's able to kind of flip out of the jaws of the wolf, and it appears that the squirrel survived. This was all caught on what appears to be a trail camera. And honestly, I wish I did freeze frame it when the squirrel's kind of in the air, and it's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm free." oh, my back really hurts from where he got me, but oh my gosh, I'm free. So I know that, like I said, there's a lot of dark stories. So if you just want to see something cute and kind of redemptive, then you can go check out this video. Link in the description below the like and subscribe button. Also down there, you can find the podcast on Spotify, Pocket Cast, and Podvine, as well as the Twitter handle at Your Daily Flip, where I put out a Twitter tirade every Tuesday and Thursday. I talked about the cementing of the populist moment, but also how the positioning of the U.S. and the things that happen within it have actually led to that. So if you want more in-depth conversation there rather than just the J.D. Vance speculation, you can go over and check that out. It's only about 12 minutes. I went a little over. Normally I like them to be 10 minutes, but it went a little bit longer than normal. But with all that said, there's only one more thing to say. Stay safe. Don't die.